Hi, and welcome back to Comedy Recapped. Today we're going to talk about the 1986 black comedy titled Ruthless People, a hilarious film full of extortion and revenge. Beware, spoilers ahead. Sam Stone is a ruthless millionaire. Over lunch at a trendy Los Angeles restaurant, he tells his mistress Carol that he plans to murder his wife Barbara. Sam is greedy, as it is revealed to Carol that 15 years ago he married Barbara for her money. Her father took a long time to die, in which time Sam built up his own small fortune. Barbara is an heiress to a much larger one, and he wants to get rid of her and get his hands on that money. When Sam gets home to his fancy Bel Air mansion, he finds himself alone. Out of frustration, he tosses the bottle of chloroform that he intended to use on Barbara and immediately receives an anonymous phone call from a man announcing that he's kidnapped Barbara. The man demands $500,000 in exchange for her life, promising to kill her if Sam informs the cops or the media. Naturally, he instantly calls the authorities and the house is swamped with police and journalists, as it becomes quick headline news. The kidnappers are Ken and Sandy Kessler, a married couple in a poor area of the San Fernando Valley. They're both destitute and eager for revenge against Sam. Several years earlier, Sam stole an innovative sports miniskirt design from Sandy, along with their life savings to market it. Barbara, Sam's loudmouthed and out-of-shape wife, is chained up in the basement, turning into quite a handful to these two amateur kidnappers. Incessant yelling, cursing, and screaming make things much more difficult. At one point, Ken slaps Barbara to subdue her, but it only makes her angrier. Quickly, it's apparent why Sam didn't care to have her back. Meanwhile, Carol has kept her intentions secret from Sam as well. She and her dim-witted lover, Earl, are using her position as his mistress to plan to steal Sam's wealth for themselves, believing Sam made up the kidnapping story for the media and that he'll toss her body off the side of the Hollywood Hills at night. Earl is then sent to wait with a video camera. He instead catches a prostitute and her John, who asks her to make a lot of noise. Being dim as he is, Earl hears the woman's screams and believes he's caught a murder on tape. Horrified as he is, he continues to film. He brings the videotape back to Carol after, looking ill, and refuses to watch it over, proceeding to cover his ears in the bathroom so he doesn't have to hear it again. Believing they've caught Sam on camera murdering his wife, they intend to use the footage against him to extort the money. Sam shows up midway through the tape to come to celebrate with his mistress. She believes she's gotten a confession out of him before he hurries back home to look sad and play the distraught husband. The next day, Sam doesn't show up for the ransom drop, and Ken phones him with an offer to drop the ransom to $50,000 from their original asking price. Sam is frustrated, as the haggling means it's another day that his wife is alive, rather than taking care of the dirty work as he'd wanted them to do in the first place. Unfortunately for him, the Kesslers are not about to murder anyone. He's then called to the morgue to identify a body, but is frustrated to learn it is not her. And the kidnappers had not yet made right on their threat. In response, he gets another call from Ken, who tries to drop the price to $10,000. This time, Sam refuses. Barbara continues to be a problematic kidnappee, refusing food and focusing solely on her fitness. In the Kesslers' basement, she's outwitted with a TV and endless time to do workouts. She is surly and rude to the couple, who are growing increasingly tired of her sour attitude and how she insults them. Meanwhile, Carol sends an anonymous copy of the video to Sam, who sees the sex act and is excited by it, immediately hitting on Carol, who he believes is coming on to him. He says he's looking forward to replicating the scene with her, but they are not on the same page. Carol still believes a murder has taken place. Terrified, she and her boyfriend hide at his house. She sends another anonymous copy to the police chief, Henry Benton. Unfortunately for him, though, he's the John in the video, and this leads him to believe that it is him, in fact, being blackmailed. They're on two different pages as Benton asks what she wants in exchange, and she says it should be obvious: arrest Sam Stone. The next day, police are ordered to conduct a thorough search of Sam Stone's home, and Benton intends to plant evidence, However, to his surprise, evidence turns up in a bottle of chloroform and a picture of Sam with Carol. The kidnapping investigation, led by detectives Bender and Walters, has led to Ken himself. He's immediately called off, as Sam is then arrested. The chloroform was part of Sam's original plan to kill his wife, but has now incriminated him despite his innocence. He's now faced with the dilemma of having to get his wife back from the kidnappers he snubbed. Sandy Kessler comes down to the basement and remarks that Barbara is looking good, that she's lost a lot of weight. She gets very excited at the compliment and asks for a scale. It turns out in her incessant exercise, she's lost 20 pounds during her single week of confinement. She and Sandy bond when Sandy brings her some vibrant, form-fitting clothes to change into, which, as they turn out to be Sandy's designs, Barbara falls in love and offers to take them worldwide. In all of this excitement, Sandy decides to let Barbara go, which causes Ken to go into a panicked frenzy. He's just come off from the encounter with detectives, believing that the police are closing in on them and they need to escape. An officer does come to the door, only to warn them of a killer on the loose. Barbara comes back just in time, as the killer has entered their home and intends on doing all of them harm, especially when he remarks that Barbara looks like his mother and Ken his father, but falls down the stairs to the basement and is killed. Barbara has returned, it seems, as she learned of Sam's mistress, realizing that he, in fact, wanted her dead. She looks hurt at first that he refused to pay the ransom, but it turns into a revenge plot quickly as the three of them scheme to get back at him. Sam is desperate to prove that his wife is alive and offers to pay the ransom when Ken calls him again. Now armed with Barbara's inside knowledge, they increase the ransom to precisely Sam's net worth, $2 million. Sam is outraged but backed into a corner. He withdraws the cash in every way he can but begs detectives to watch the drop site. They initially refuse, still believing that he killed his wife. While Sam is at the bank, doing his best to obtain the money, Benton can be seen withdrawing his own cash, likely to flee abroad after Carol went to the video store and played the tape in front of all the patrons. It just so happens that this reveals the chief's infidelity to his wife, as she recognizes him as the John in the video. Carol then calls Sam and learns about the time and place of the ransom drop. She tells Earl to go there and steal the ransom money himself. The next day, in downtown Los Angeles, the drop is in a local plaza. Sam waits with the cash from his accounts, and Barbara calls him from an office across the street. She instructs him to wait while shouting curses and obscenities his way and blaming the kidnappers. Barbara demands he put his expensive Rolex watch and gold ring into the case, as well as to ensure he has no assets left to live on. He is forced to comply, and she says someone is coming to take the money. Once Barbara hangs up, Ken shows up in disguise, wearing a clown mask and driving the now-dead serial killer's car. As he demands the briefcase, the police reveal themselves and prevent him from being arrested immediately by continuing to hold Barbara's well-being hostage, threatening to have his accomplice kill her if they do. Against Sam's vehement protest, the police decide to let Ken go and instead follow him home. Earl, however, shows up with a gun to then steal the ransom money from Ken. The ensuing confusion leads Earl to be captured by police, and Ken drives away with the money in the bedroom killer's car with a group of police following silently behind him. Seeing the police following him, Ken decides to drive his car off the end of the Santa Monica Pier, with the money inside. Cash floats to the surface and people jump off the dock to grab it, despite saying just moments before how there are riptides in the water. Sam yells at the police officer closest to him to stop them and pushes him in as well. The officers go ahead and search the water and bring up the car and find the serial killer's body in Ken's old clothes. Sam fakes grief, but is ecstatic inside, believing that Barbara will definitely be killed and her money is finally his. But instead, Barbara appears and tells the detectives that the kidnapper was insane and believed he had accomplices despite working alone. She claims to have been able to escape as soon as he left. Sam is then cleared of all charges and is taken aback by how thin and beautiful Barbara has become. They embrace, but Barbara gives him a thrashing once they're out of the eyesight of the departing police. She does this for both the affair and not even trying to pay the ransom to save her. Barbara tells him she wants a divorce, and in turn pushes him off the pier and into the water. Ken emerges from the water in full scuba gear on a beach not far away, carrying the briefcase with the cash. Sandy runs to meet and embrace him lovingly, the two of them kissing. Having disposed of her husband, Barbara appears and runs to meet the couple. They all dance for joy with the money in the briefcase $2 million richer. And that's going to wrap things up for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this recap as much as we did. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. While you're at it, if you liked the video and want to look into other movies with us, then make sure you like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on. That way, you won't miss a single video.